What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the DK Garage. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joe.
This is the Race Day Rundown.
Yeah, it's basically a short version of our podcast, so if you've got time, go back and check that out. It's full of DraftKings information and really went down into a lot of depths of data and everything associated with Las Vegas, where we're at.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that in this one. We're going to get you out of here and get your lineup set. So let's get to it. Kyle Busch, at the top of the slate, starts at 11,400, starting 14th.
He's gonna be
in or out.
He's out. It's too hard to reach value starting that far back. He'd have to do a lot. It's very difficult. There's a lot of guys that were a lot higher on this week.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, but I will not fully fade him. So definitely consider him, but yeah, not high on him. Martin Truex.
11-1, starting fourth. He has the potential to lead a lot of laps early. He's got a high price tag, starting fourth, not a lot of PD upside. It's going to be challenging. More of a GPP play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's going to come in a little lower owned though than he should. So I think there's some nice potential there. I will use him, but yeah, he's not our favorite play of the week.
Again, GPP in my opinion.
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney, 10-8, starting 26th. He's probably going to be pretty high owned, starting that far back. A lot of place differential potential. What are your thoughts?
You have to play him because he does have good numbers here. He's got some, not necessarily finishes. Those have been obviously a little hit and miss, but he has run up front. He can get around this track. His teammates are really good here. Penske seems to be really good here. It's a little tough with the price tag, I think. But with that PD, it offers so much upside. You got to roster him some.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. It doesn't take a lot to pay off that price tag where he's starting. So somebody that's going to receive some exposure from me.
Yeah, Chase Elliott.
Starting 8th, 10-6, such an awkward spot. We talked about it in depth in our podcast. Somebody I'm kind of cautioning folks to stay away from because it's such an awkward place with that high price tag. It's going to be very difficult to achieve value.
Yeah, he's a yellow flag. He's not a red flag for me. He has really shown a lot of speed here. He's led a lot of laps last year at this race. Led 70 laps. He's just, like you said, he's in a tough spot with some of the guys around him. But if you're going to play a lot of lineups, if you're 20 or more, you need to have some exposure to Chase Elliott.
Great GPP plays, not a cash play in my opinion. The next couple of guys next few guys we're going to talk about are
both,
very strong cash plays in my opinion and great GPP plays. Starting off those three drivers that we're going to talk about, Brad Keselowski, 10-3, starting 10th. He offers that PD upside. Great track history here. In the last 10 races, he's got 3 wins, 9 top 10s, 6 top 5s. He's got the 4th most laps led in that same time frame. Average 5th finishing position. So he's got a lot of upside, a lot of history here. Well, I'm going to have a lot of exposure.
I like Brad. This is, like you said, a great track for him. He's also, if you just look at finishes this year, you might be a little confused, but he has looked great in every race this year. He's been up at the front or real near the front in every single race. So with that being, 10th, it's a little not quite the PD you would want, but if he does get up front, lead some laps, and then fades back, he won't do as big of a damage with that negative PD if he was starting, like fourth or something.
And the PD, that's why we're on the next guy even a little bit more so, Joey Logano, starting 15th, 10,000, so you get a $300 discount, offers more PD, and his impressive stats, or his stats are almost as impressive as Brad K here. He's got 2 wins.
More impressive.
He's got 2 wins, but he's going for a 3-peat in the spring race.
Yeah.
So 9 top 10s, all right along with Brad K, 6 top 5s, same situation, 487 laps led, second most. So you're right.
Yeah. Logano, there's only one other driver really recently at Vegas that's better than Logano, and that's Harvick. We're going to get to him in a second. But like you said, Logano going for a 3-peat in the spring race, you don't usually get this. And for this race, he's usually qualified or starting further up. So that's great PD upside. He doesn't have to do that much to hit 5 or even 6x value.
In my opinion, they've got the price tags wrong between Joey Logano and Kyle Busch.
Oh, yeah. Kyle Busch is way overpriced, in my opinion, this week. Harvick, maybe a little underpriced.
Yeah, starting on the pole, it's not uber enticing when you see it from that angle with all the potential downside with place differential. But when you look at his stats here, how dominant he's been, it opens your eyes. He's starting on the pole. He's led the most laps of anybody here in the last 10 races, and is very impressive with 2 wins in that same time span, 7 top 10s. He's a driver that you want to look at, and if he gets out front early and gets those laps led and fastest laps, he's got a real good chance of achieving value with that lower price tag under $10,000.
131.3. That is the average laps that Kevin Harvick leads in the last 3 spring races. The next guy that's closest to him is averaging 55, and that's Logano. Logano has one more win, but the driver rating is 136 to 120. Harvick is great here, and he's great here in the spring. Starting first, there's no one in front of him. He has potential to lead a ton of laps immediately. He was starting first in the fall race last year and didn't lead any, so there is a little hesitation there, but he doesn't, even if he doesn't lead that many laps, if he just finishes around where he's been finishing this year, he's going to hit value for you.
Yeah,
so the upside is tremendous.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Even starting on the pole, that price tag is the difference maker there for me. Kyle Larson, right below him, 9,400, starting third. He's in an interesting spot. He doesn't have as great of success here as some of the guys we just got done talking about, but it's not bad. He missed last race, the second race here last year because of the incident, and basically he has 6 top 10s, 3 top 5s, and an average finish of 10th. So he's got some upside, but it's not great because of where he's starting.
Yeah, the upside is not there, and there is quite a bit of downside. But I got to say, I'm riding the Kyle Larson train for now because he looks so much better this year in Hendrick equipment than he did when he was at Chip Ganassi. And he looked good then, but not what he's done so far. Again, he's had some issues with the finishes, mostly at the road course, and he was going for it. So can't put that against him. He looked good last week. Wasn't as impressive as I had hoped, but he did very good. I like him here. Not my favorite play, but he's in my lineups for sure. Going
to be hard to reach value starting third at that price tag, but it's not unattainable. He could do it.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin, 9.2, starting 6. Somebody we really weren't impressed at. None of his numbers really popped off the screen here. I'm not really seeing him as a great play, but where he's at, you might be able to sneak him in a GPP scenario and be a little bit different and hit a home run there. But as far as cash, I'm really not looking at Denny Hamlin at all.
I completely agree with you with what you just said. But the only thing that I'll say to kind of contradict you is Denny Hamlin.
Yes.
And he's good at mile and a halves. He's had some success here. If his team hits, no pit road issues. He's just one of those guys. He's easy to completely fade. And if he hits, you're just going to be devastated because you'll need him to cash because he'll go off. So won't be a complete fade. I will find a way to get him into a couple lineups just to kind of, play a little safe, but yeah, not a fan this week in particular.
Somebody I know a lot of people will probably be all over this week, Matty D, 9,000, starting 30th. He's got good stats here recently, 2 second place finishes in the last 2 races here. What are your thoughts? It's an interesting spot. He has a lot of upside with where he's starting, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's not too much downside with him, but there is obviously some because he is 9,000. But 30th, he doesn't have to do too much to be decent. I picked him to win this race before the season started. I like Matty D. A lot of people like Matty D. They want to see him do well here. He's going to be highly owned, but I went back and watched the race last year, and he didn't impress me. I was just impressed that he got a great finish. he ran very similarly, at least early, to how he's run so far this year. And this year has not been great for him. Very tough. I want to see him break out of this hole. I will be playing him. You have to have him in some of your lineups, but honestly, I won't be surprised if he underperforms what most people are expecting.
Yeah, and we are looking at a guy a couple spots below him, and Eric Almirola to be a little bit of a pivot from that. But there's a guy wedged in between the two, Alex Bowman, 8,800, starting ninth. Very enticing play. He's somebody that's very similar to last week's winner in his progression and continued, performance, where we see that we think he's almost there. This could be a race where you could play him in a GPP tournament scenario and maybe hit a home run. I'm feeling that this might be kind of a scenario where that might play.
I don't believe there was that many people last week that thought William Byron would do what he did. Alex Bowman is in this with the same team, Team Hendrick, and he is in the position. He doesn't have the PD that William Byron had last week. But at this race last year, all 4 Hendrick cars were in the top 6 multiple points throughout the race. They have speed, and Alex Bowman has – it is very – I don't want to say likely. I won't be surprised if he actually dominates this race and he ends up pulling a William Byron type thing in this race. You do not want to completely fade this guy this week. It, in my opinion, it's too dangerous. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go 50% in all your lineups or anything.
No, he's not somebody that I'm having very much exposure to overall, but he's somebody I don't want to just miss the boat on. So I will have some in a couple different arrangements, but I'm not saying, hey, load up on this guy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, because the PD around him is, you have to respect that.
Eric Almirola, 8,628 is his starting position. A guy we're liking a lot this week, just because where he has a lot of upside, and he's got a decent bit of experience here and some success, no wins or anything along those lines, but where he's starting, it's more easy for him to attain a better value overall than some of the other guys on the list.
Yeah, I mentioned it in our podcast. I am reluctant to play Almirola because I don't like rostering Almirola most weeks, but you have to respect his performance here at this track. It's not a terrible track for him. He's decent, and if he just hits around his averages, you're going to want him in his lineup because he can hit 5-6x very easily. And he's, with the way Harvick has dominated, same team, he can get up there and really surprise some people as well. I'm not expecting that, but he has that potential. So, yeah, Eric Almirola, great play. William Byron, though.
William Byron's not next on the list, 8,300, starting second. It's going to be difficult, and some people are want to go back to last week's success with him. It's going to be difficult to achieve that, in my opinion. I'm not going to have very much exposure to him this week, but he could be in a position to reach value if a couple of these key metrics hit. Right. If he's able to lead early and get some fastest laps, he could pan out.
Right. Yeah, I think if you're building your lineups, if you use an optimizer, I don't think William Byron is probably going to make it in most. But I think with what we've seen this year, especially with the race last week, and as I mentioned, how strong Hendrick looked last year in this race at different points during the race, all of their drivers were in the top 10. Almost all of them were in the top 5 at one point. If you build some William Byron lineups, that's not a bad play. You just got to build it correctly.
And it would be in a tournament scenario, not a cash game type play. I'm not saying risk the farm in a cash scenario. It's a tournament play. Yeah. Kurt Busch is kind of in the same boat. Tournament play for me. Last year's winner, starting 7th, 8,100. Not really an easy path for him to achieve a target value that we're looking for. So somebody I'm not really playing too much. There's a lot of younger guys that we're getting ready to run through that I would rather roster.
Yeah. Kurt Busch, we said some nice things about him in our podcast. You want to know more about him, check that out. A lot of good stuff. But, yeah, Kurt Busch, overall, I won't be playing much, if any.
Tyler Reddick, 7,900, starting 11th. A guy we're kind of on the fence about. He's got a path to being able to reach that target value of 5x where we want to be. it's not as easy starting 11th. There's a couple guys below him that are going to have a better, easier path.
Yeah, I think you're a little higher on Reddick than I am. I don't hate it. I think, again, if you're building a lot of lineups, you want to have them in there. But overall, if you're doing just a couple, it's a pass for me this week.
Austin Dillon moving down the list, 7,600, starting 12th. Somebody I know that you're a little bit more comfortable. We talked about it in the podcast, showing you a little bit this year. So what are your thoughts?
I do like Austin Dillon. I do briefly want to mention you passed Christopher Bell, 7,700, 16th. I'm not a huge on him, but you threw out some really great stats about his Xfinity. Go check that out in our podcast again. He's good. I'll have some of him, but you're right. Austin Dillon is a guy that, unfortunately, I will have a good amount of because I think he's in a great spot this week too.
Chase Briscoe, 74, 24th, another young guy I'm more high on than you, I think, this week because of some of the Xfinity stats that we talked about and just overall, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes. Another guy that's young, Ross Chastain, right under him, 7,300, 21st. What are your thoughts here?
Chastain was in Ryan Newman's car last year after Newman's wreck. This was the second race after of the season, first race after the 500. He was in the top 10 at a couple different points in the race. He looked good, slipped a little bit late. I'll sprinkle some Chastain, but I don't overly love it.
Somebody that offers a little bit more place differential potential, Eric Jones, 29th, 7,100. He's in new equipment with Petty, a little bit more challenging potentially. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a few guys down lower, in my opinion, that I'd rather play. Even though Eric Jones looks so good with that 29th starting position, I'll build a few lineups with him because he has that potential upside. But overall, no, I'm not a big fan of him.
Bubba Wallace, he's starting at starting 23rd, $7,000. Somebody's interesting where he's at with the potential to move up. He does offer some place differential. What are you thinking about him? I think it's a little bit more of a GPP target than a cash game play.
Yeah, and if you just want to build a random contrarian lineup, sure, go for it. But if you're really trying to play this smart this week, I'll be playing the guy below him, Ricky Stenhouse, 6,800, starting 17th. He looked really good here last year, and you mentioned some stats also in the podcast. Really the last, 6, I think? He's really been strong.
Yeah, so if you got some time, go check out some of the stats. We really went deep into that, especially with Stenhouse because we like him a lot. Some guy we're warning people about, the guy below him, Ryan Newman, 6,700, starting 13th.
Yeah, it's just overall it's going to be a pass for me. I maybe one or two lineups, but yeah, don't like him. Like the guy right below him, though, Cole Custer a lot. You got burned a little bit last week, but I think overall he's still in a great spot this week. What do you think?
Yeah, his price tag's very similar, but he's got 10 different, he's starting 10 places lower, more place differential. And if you didn't watch last week's race, he was in the top 5 with a few laps to go and cut a tire. So somebody that's very sneaky and could be the key difference maker.
Yeah, do not sleep on Cole Custer. That is a great position for him.
Same scenario. The guy right below him, Chris Buescher, another guy, 6,400, 18th. Somebody that's might not be too sneaky after last week's performance, led a lot of laps, but
57. I think.
Yeah, he's somebody we're high on because of previous performance here, and last week very similar track type, did well.
Yeah, this is Ricky Stenhouse used to race in this car, and he had a lot of success in this car. Ran really well, so the team should know how to set it up for Chris Buescher. I like this play a lot.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys to talk about under this that we're really confident in. We'll touch on a couple punt plays, if you will. Corey LaJoie, 6,300, starting 33rd, offers that place differential. He's in a little bit better equipment. He has some experience, so he does offer upside.
Yeah, you're gonna want a lot of these guys up at the top of the salary mark. So you're gonna need a few of these bottom end guys, and LaJoie is probably in the best position of the guys from here on out.
Yeah, obviously, talking about Daniel Suarez, 6,100. He's in newer equipment. We haven't got to see it a lot. He's starting 22nd. It's
Looked good last week.
He did. So it's very difficult to where he's at to offer a lot of place differential, but it could be there.
Yeah, I might sneak him in.
Michael McDowell, 6,000, starting all the way up at 5th. He's had great finishes all year.
3 top 10s.
He's been good in most DraftKings situations, but starting up at the top, not a great track history here. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think McDowell's going to end up in any of mine. Maybe one just because he has surprised, but at some point we're all kind of expecting a little bit of a letdown with Michael McDowell starting this high up.
Yeah, and I'm not really looking to go back to the well. It's just not something that looks repeatable to me. Yeah. Ryan Preece, not somebody I'm really excited about. Anthony Alfredo is pretty much the bottom of the barrel for me. If I'm going to reach and need something in that $5,000 range, 5,600, starting 27th. He offers some place differential. He's a rookie. It's not exciting, but anybody below him is a big risk.
Yeah, that's why they call them punt plays. You don't know what's going to happen. You're just kind of kicking it, and if it pays off, it pays off. It does do that sometimes, but really none of these guys, there's no stats to really justify putting them in your lineup. So if you want to know more about any of these drivers we talked about and you have time before the race locks or starts and the lineups lock, check out the podcast. We went really deep into the stats. You'll get everything that you want to know. If you don't have that much time, but you want a little bit more, check out our race guide.
Yeah, the race guide's our digital magazine. It pairs and gives you a nice overview without all the spreadsheets and all the just overwhelming information. We put it in a nice, clean overview so you can really get the key data points that you're looking for, and it really pairs well with what you're just witnessed here in this rundown.
Yep. Well, that being said, good luck to you guys and your lineups. This was the race day rundown. Please like and subscribe, and good luck.
See you next week.